Hey, BassGeek here, and hey man, don't be a drag. I'm going to show you how I set up the drag on each one of my reels for the specific bait that I'm going to share with you today, and that'll cross a ton of different baits. But one thing that you do need to know, you're cheaper, under $100 now, not so for spinning gear, but definitely the casting reels. One of the very first things you're going to notice is that the drag seems to be the area that they suffer the absolute most. So sometimes, and I'll tell you a couple of tricks, you kind of have to go ahead and tighten those down and use your thumb button, your spool release, or even back reel on some of your cheaper spinning reels. We'll cover that sort of stuff a different day, but this should be a good overall setup to how you want to set your drag for almost any bait and hook style. That's a big key, bait and hook style on the market. So the very first thing, and I take 3 factors into consideration when I'm setting up my drag. And the very first thing is going to be the hook type. Are they single hook? Is the bait a treble hook bait? Are they big treble hooks? Are they small treble hooks? Is it a heavy wire single hook, a light wire single hook? That's going to be the very first thing and where I start with when it comes to adjusting my drag. Now, the next thing is going to be really rod. It's going to be the type of rod. Is it a parabolic bend, which means does it bend all the way down to the reel seat? Halfway down? Does it bend literally a foot from the tip? So is it a stiff rod, a very light and whippy style rod? That's going to be the next factor I take in. The third is going to be line type and line size. So for whatever reason, if I'm throwing a 10XD on 12 or 14 pound test, I may not give as much drag as I would if I was throwing it on 10 pound test, which is a lot, heavier bait on a lighter line. Now, if I'm throwing it on monofilament's got a little more stretch, I may not worry as much about needing that drag as opposed to if I was throwing it on fluorocarbon or even braid, where I might want a little bit of give if I'm throwing a treble hook bait. And we're going to start with a single hook on a spinning rod. Now guys, you've seen this in the last video. This is my Cumberland Pro Lures. This is a 3/8 ounce ball head swim bait. This is their finesse head. I love this little head when I'm really dragging this bait on bottom, okay? Now, this has got a smaller, lighter wire hook, okay? So for me, with this style of bait, we're going to start out with single hooks. Generally, even finesse-wise, and you can put this across your TRDs, so your Ned rigs, your Nico rigs, if it's on a spinning reel, okay? Even then, I still want my drag, but I want it a little tighter, okay? So this drag is going to be just a little bit tight. So let's just say if I decided to hold it from right here, I would have to shake it, and you can hear it just barely moving, okay? So a single hook bait, because a lot of times what I'm going to want to do is I am going to want to lean into that fish just a little bit. It's a single hook, so we're going to get good penetration. And when I say lean into it, I don't mean we're going to, hard set the hook. I'm bad about that. So, my drag is very important. But that drag, I want it on a single hook bait a little bit stiffer. Now, if the fish decides to take a run, you can always reach up and just give a little you know, a little twist of the handle. So, or a twist of the drag. But my drag, 90% of the time, if I'm fishing a single hook, I want it right there. Which, as you can see, it's still got a good pull. Now, let's say I'm fishing a single hook bait, but I'm fishing it on 6-pound test. Now, I'm going to change it up a little bit, man. You know, I'm going to change it up a little bit. So here we've got the ledge head, and this is the Bass Munitions drop, the Stealth Shad, and this is the drop head from Bass Munitions. So if I'm fishing for these bass that are 30, 40, 50, 80 foot deep, I'm going to want a little lighter drag action. Now this is a, you know, I can get that off there. You know, again, we've got a nice little light wire hook. So my drag for this particular bait, I want to fall very smooth. Maybe even just give it a little bit of shake to get it to fall. So we're right there. That's where I want this bait to be. So 90% of the time on a single hook bait, I'm going to have it a little bit tighter, you know, where you got to shake that rod to get that drag to fall. But if I'm using lighter line, 6 pounds, sometimes 8 pound, but anything, we'll say 8 pounds kind of the, you know, kind of the breaking point. But 6 pounds or less, I'm absolutely going to want that to fall a little smoother. All right. Now, let's talk about treble hooks. So here we've got our spy bait. This is a dual Realis spy bait 90. Now the thing about this, and by the way guys, I always say make sure you're buying your TRC. I love this, keeps the hooks from getting out. They'll still get in there, but it really prevents them from getting in there a whole lot. But the best thing about the TRCs is really this tip protection. That tip protection, I mean, you really have to get it to bend, and your rod tip sits right here. And it's got foam in it, they do float, and of course, as always, they don't fall off of the rod as easy. But all that being said, when we talk about treble hooks, now that's where I really want a good drag. And I'm going to set my drag up for a treble hook bait much the same way that I set up for a lighter. So let's see where this is. It's pretty stout. We're just going to click it a couple, give it a little shake, click it a couple more, a little shake, click it. We're getting there. Well, I had it set up real tight on this. There we go. Maybe one more. Let's reel that in and see what we can get. But basically what I'm trying to show you is that I want this set just like that, just like it was before. Now let's talk about some smaller, like, you know, we talked about the Jackall riser bait once before. Now the Jackall riser, if you've got some of those really small, like this is a spy bait 90. If I was throwing that spy bait 80, which has the really fine hooks, I may want to take it down just another click or two, okay? Because those baits are going to be really fine. And the thing about your treble hooks is that they don't necessarily penetrate as much as they do really just kind of latch on. Now, you know, as the fish fights, you'll get a good penetration out of a treble hook, but for the most part, you know, you're really talking about you know, a lot of hooks grasping on and just not letting go. That's going to prevent you from losing, really no matter what the reel, the parabolic bend is of the rod. Now, if you've got a little softer rod, this is where the rod comes in. You might want to go ahead and tighten it up a click or two, okay? That's, you know, a softer rod, or if you're fishing mono, the mono is going to have a little more stretch. The rod is going to have a little more forgiveness. So that's where you may want to adjust based on rod and line. All right, sorry about the little bit of a hat change, wardrobe change, I guess you could say. I don't think I hit record on part of this, so I'm redoing it now. So let's talk about Baitcasters. Now guys, Baitcasters are a little different. Most of the time I've got them a little tighter because all you got to do is press the thumb bar and hold your thumb on here if you get a real big fish, and you can kind of control how much line you give that fish anyway. It's real easy, but there's a nice little trick to checking your drag on a baitcaster. And when it comes to baitcasters, you've really got two types of hooks: a single hook and your treble hooks. Now this is a little Damiki Vault, and the thing about the Damiki Vault is it could be a topwater, it could be a crankbait, any sort of treble hook bait you want to talk about. So the trick for me with these types of baits, because I've got this on a parabolic rod, you're going to have your crankbaits, your topwaters, or you should have on a rod that's pretty parabolic. 3 fingers, okay? I want to be able to grab my line right in front with 3 fingers, and I want it to come off. You'll notice right now the spool is not moving. So I'm going to crank it back. We're starting to get some movement. There we go. Maybe just a notch or 2 more. 3 fingers. There we go. So 3 fingers, I want this to be able to come loose. All right. That's going to cover pretty much any treble hook bait. Now there are some treble hook baits out there that, you know, you're going to want to crank down, you know, big baits with a lot of metal. A prime example of that is going to be the exact opposite on the spectrum when it comes to blade baits, and it's going to be the ledge head blade bait. It's a much bigger blade bait with much heavier hooks. And most of the time, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to crank this drag down, and I'm going to just use my thumb bar if I think I get a really big fish on. It's got big heavy hooks on it, so I'm not going to be that concerned. Big treble hook baits, like your big swim baits, you know, your S-Waver style baits, your bull shads, those type of things, you want to crank those down and get them in. And that brings me really to my single hook baits. Guys, my single hook baits, even if, I'll tell you most of the time, even if it's a finesse bait, I am going to crank it down. I don't want to be able to pull this at all. I don't want it moving at all. And the reason why is because most of the time, whether it be a jig or anything else, if you have a single hook and you've got the bait around it, when they come up and they shake their head, the bait likes to twist, and it kind of wrenches that hook out. So with single hook baits, don't play your fish. Just go ahead and drag them in. Now, if you're throwing a finesse, say a small swim bait on a very finesse hook, yeah, you can do the 3-finger test, and that'll work for you fine. But that's really going to be about the only time you ever see me do that. It is extremely hard to bend out most hooks. So even the finesse ones, most of the time, unless they're in heavy cover. And if they're in heavy cover, why are you throwing a finesse hook? That's just my numero uno question for you, all right? All right, guys, so really that is it. So do the reel test on the reel drop test on your spinning reels, do the 3-finger test on your casting reels, and that should be a great starting point. You know, I don't really condone on the spinning reels the back reel, but it's another technique that you may want to learn. We can do a video on that just to be safe. You never know, man. You get a hold of a really big one, and you know, I like to set my drag a little tighter because I like to make sure I've got a good hook set. I don't worry about it as much with treble hooks, but even with the single hook, like the Ned rig and that sort of stuff on the spinning reels, I do worry about it. All right, anyway, so tell me how you guys, if you guys have some tricks to set your drag. Tell me about a time when maybe you had too loose or too tight drag and it cost you a good fish, or a fish in a tournament that cost you money or something. Just give me your best, I lost a fish because I had my drag set incorrectly. Because even though it's a drag, it really is important to put more fish in the boat that we hook up with. All right, as always, questions, comments in the comment section below. Guys, tell me about your most memorable fish loss because of drag. And in the comment section, I want to hear your stories. And any other thing you have to ask me about, ask me. I love to answer your questions. I love to talk fishing. I tell you this all the time. My fishing buddies know I'll talk to them for hours and hours and hours. So I'm not lying about this. I love to talk to you guys about fishing. I love to answer your questions. But as always, like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that little notification bell so you get these notifications of these videos when they come out so you can watch them. Please ring that bell right beside the subscribe button. And as always, you guys, say it with me, you guys rock. If you didn't say it with me, you said it in your head, didn't you? See ya.